your orange juice. It's all good, baby. We back finally. And we on, baby. Oh my God, after a long hiatus, Sam and Nub the podcast. We're back. And we got a special guest here from Flying Spiders, JP. How goes it, sir?
Going good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. So how was your weekend?
It was great.
Yeah, anything big and exciting?
Friday night, we had a little show and had some friends out and played some music, and it was a good time.
Yeah, dude. All right, so for all y'all who don't know, last Friday night, Smiles Davis, Real Life Rockers, and the return of the Flying Spiders at Red Room Lounge. That was a pretty powerful show, man.
Yeah, there was a lot of people there. It was all the vibes were definitely positive. Everybody just showed up to support a local band, and I thought that was really, really cool because, after so many months of not playing music, we come back and we have that big of a response. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing I was most impressed was you guys had the response, the table was set, and you guys ate. Like, I definitely thought it was one of those things where you guys stepped up, made the statement you needed to make. Yeah, I just made that metaphor. What of it?
Feasted.
It was a feast, dude. Totally, man. Yeah, but the thing I was kind of surprised by was I've heard Smiles Davis and stuff online, stuff like that, but I haven't seen him live, and I don't think I've ever seen MJ smile that wide in my life.
Right.
Like,
he was having such a great time. And it made sense because he was killing it. And they all were. Like, Smiles was probably my favorite set of the show. Like, I just thought it was the coolest.
Yeah. No, I mean, the places it went, that, and the thing that's cool about Smiles is it's one of those, like, the stuff they're doing because you have basically two bands coming together, members from those bands, that you can definitely sense that these guys kind of have a freedom with this band. And, like, some of the stuff Sparky was doing, like, when you're talking about miking the saxophone, putting that mic into a wah pedal or stuff like that.
His solo on, I think it was that Fly M Sam song was so fucking dirty. I was like, he's playing the guitar with his saxophone.
Yeah, no, it's like he's sounding like Eddie Van Halen. Like the arpeggios he's doing on his sax, like, it was nuts, man. It was totally nuts.
Yeah, it's weird to be a guitar player sharing the stage with a sax player like Sparky because he can do everything you can do better, and then he can do his own thing, and it's humbling to see someone like that play right next to you.
Yeah, like, how do you guys kind of figure that? Is it one of those things where you kind of have to treat him like a lead guitarist, or?
He's definitely a soloist. I would use the term soloist because there's just, he can solo on any instrument that he plays. So, if a song calls for a particular instrument to play a solo, he's also very sensitive to that. So, like, before the show, we switched one of the songs to have a guitar solo instead of the sax solo. So, he knows where to put those solos and where they'll make the biggest impact.
See, and I think that's the biggest thing, especially with someone who has a ability to, like, just go off and solo, is the conservation of it. A lot of guys you'll see, they'll just go nuts where they want to take over the song every time and stuff like that, but his judgment on it. Yeah, definitely. So, kind of give us your background, man. Like, how'd you get into Flying Spiders? Like, what you do, JP?
I play guitar. I try to make my guitar as weird as possible. Back when I joined the band, I basically asked Sam, like, hey, can I come jam with you guys? And he was all about it, but they had another guitar player. Mm-hmm. If you talk to any guitar player, they're usually like, guitar's cool and love playing guitar in bands, but I don't like sharing guitar in bands.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like that back then. And so I waited, and eventually that guitar player parted ways, and Sam called me, and he said, hey, man, you want to come jam now? I was like, sure, send me the music. I learned all the stuff that they had at the time and showed up, and pretty much like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
I just picked up where the other guy left off, and, last guitar player was awesome, but, for whatever reason, the stars aligned and said, hey, let's do this. Let's play music with the Spiders. So, yeah.
Kind of starting off, like, what adjustments did you have to make? Because, most people aren't used to playing in a band this big, where you have this many elements you're trying to balance.
Yeah, you really look for negative space to add things. Sometimes you play, the same thing as the rest of the band. One of the biggest leaps for any guitar player that's not immersed in the hip hop culture is to take an instrument that's known for so many other types of music and then try and make it into a hip hop instrument. And that sounds a little more simple than it really is, because you start thinking about it's not just what you play, but it's also the tones you choose.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're trying to play along with that many people, you also have to be really sensitive to what kind of effects you're using. And, if you play a line, you want to make sure you're not interrupting the violin player, and
Right.
don't forget about the keys playing. So yeah, you definitely have to be listening a lot more than you're playing.
Well, and I mean, that's like the ultimate form of, being someone playing in a band, though, is how much more important listening can be than doing. Definitely. Yeah, dude. Like, so you're saying, like, especially starting, your specialty was like making a guitar not sound like a guitar. Like, I mean, kind of go into that. Like, who are your influences for doing that? Like, what crazy stuff have you tried? Like, I've heard stuff of guys like using chunks of tile as a pick just to get different sound and stuff like that. Like,
I want to be more experimental as we go on. I mean, I would say that it's not so much about making a guitar sound like a different instrument. I think lately I've come into that idea that maybe I should start making it sound like something completely different, but I'd still try to keep elements of the guitar. Like, I want you to hear me picking the notes out and playing chords, but there's the Tom Morello theory where you just kind of turn everything up to 11. Like, if you've ever been in a guitar store and you see a guy playing with pedals and stuff, you kind of play with all the dials to see what it can do.
yeah.
Tom Morello is a big influence because he just walks in and he turns everything all the way up, and that's a song, that's a note. Like, that's what he's going for all of a sudden. He just kind of lets his equipment take him where it wants to go rather than the other way around.
Right.
So it's not so formulaic. You have to kind of think on your feet. You have to adapt to what's coming out of the speaker, because it's not going to sound like a guitar anymore. You're no longer playing guitar.
Yeah, it gets more into that mad scientist sort of vibe.
Exactly, but it's also an accidental process a lot of the time. You
Yeah.
can be playing with the same pedal, the same amp, the same guitar for years, and one day you walk up and all of a sudden all your knobs are turned the wrong way or whatever, and you start playing and you're like, oh wow, I never thought of playing my gear that way before.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an epiphany at that moment. You're like, well, I could start doing other things this way. And yeah, so one of the things I try to do is just let my pedals and my amp kind of get knocked around in transit, and I'll show up and play with whatever happens to be turned on at that time.
Yeah, so it kind of turns into more of a DJ thing, where as opposed to going and creating your sound, you're going and balancing the sound, like learning what to do. All right, this sound is coming out. This is happening. Like, maybe you got there on purpose, maybe not, but now we need to learn how to manage it.
Exactly, yeah. And once you get on top of that and learn how to use it as another tool, then you bring that tool to practice, and then you make that song. And then when you go to play that song, then you start having to remember where all the knobs were and what you were doing at that time.
Oh, that sounds like a B.
Yeah. So, I've got notebooks at home. Like, this song is, this knob's at 9 and this one's at 2. And, it's a lot of work in that respect. And I don't think a lot of people think of it that way. They're like, oh, it's a guitar player who just shows up and plugs in and plays. And hip hop, I think, lends itself to letting you explore your equipment more than just your instrument.
Right. Yeah. So when you started playing, like, did you notice yourself kind of like, instead of in the past maybe where it's like, oh, I want to hear this guy, how he plays this sort of thing, kind of, I mean, did you find yourself obviously listening to more hip hop, but like, did anything come in where you like drawing inspiration from different places?
I just listen to, whatever hip hop the rest of the band is listening to. I hate to say it, but it's a great way to discover new music. I mean, everybody's like, oh yeah, I'm listening to this. And then I'll go through it and I'll find stuff that I like as far as licks, just a little series of notes. And then I'll try and replicate that, There's also, like, for any instrument, there's like classic licks in any genre. So if you're trying to play a certain style, it's good to know, like in blues, there's this really famous guitar line. If I had a guitar here, I'd show you, but in hip hop, there's the same thing. Like, there's a few songs that have these iconic little licks in them. And if you pick those things up, you start to learn where to place your instrument. And then as a result, you can kind of hook people in because you're playing a take on something they've heard before, which I think is the whole theory behind hip hop.
So
Borrow it.
Yeah, that's kind of your thing is like, all right, I'm messing with this genre. I'm gonna find the scale. I'm gonna find where most of these guys reside.
Or even farther than that, I'm gonna sample something I heard, but sample it on my instrument, which that's what the Spiders are all about. Let's take all these samples and we're gonna play them live now.
Yeah, it's that's really cool. So what have you been listening to, man?
I'm a huge Gangstar fan. Like that's
Yeah.
my go-to hip hop. Like if I want to hear hip hop, that's what I put on. Listen to Murs, Vast Air. Everybody listens to Aesop now.
Yeah.
As far as locally, there's a lot of great MCs that I like to hear. A buddy of mine at work was bringing up Quiz the other day, and so we were talking about Quiz.
Do you know what's been up with Quiz? Like, I know, is he still out in France? Or
I'm not sure. I saw a post online that he was working with somebody from Europe, I believe, but I haven't really. And the last time I heard him play was at what was that joint out in Browns that had like the 4 pool tables or whatever? It's a big spot.
in Browns Edition?
Yeah, or it was more close to the train tracks and stuff.
Sunset,
Sunset Junction. Yeah, I saw him play there like 4 years ago, and that was like the last time I saw him. And I was blown away because I had never heard it before. And he's making all his own beats, and his rhyme style was real crazy. And he had like, it was just cool MC, you know? Like,
he's one of those dudes where it's like he's not really paying attention to what anyone else is doing. We all talk about, like you were talking about earlier, we pick up influences and stuff like that, and he's just in Quiz world, you know, and he's coming up with his stuff. Man, I need to find some of his Europe stuff.
You know, I tried it. I looked. Oh, you say Ziriab?
What's that?
Who?
No. I said I need to go find some of his Euro stuff.
Oh
like
yeah.
stuff he's
No,
been
I
doing
tried
lately.
I googled the shit out of that guy one day, just trying to like find anything, and I couldn't find a fucking thing. Like I looked everywhere. And
Just adds to the mystery of Quiz.
Yeah.
This little dude
I had to
who
get
just
like
comes
gotta
in.
get on the deep net and shit. Like gotta talk to Morpheus to try to find this dude. Like this is.
Well, I mean, you can't talk to Quiz unless you got the correct encryption codes,
I guess
dude.
not, man.
Totally. Yeah, no, he's just adds to the mystery. He's just this little this dude who comes in, hoodie up, you know, talks to 3 or 4 people, just kind of keeps himself does his thing. And the thing that's crazy about with him is like you'll play with him and you'll play with him one week, you're like, yeah, dude, that was crazy. Next week there's a whole different set. Like it's a whole different thing. Like the amount that this guy makes is nuts.
Yeah.
But now he's
one of the things from the show I thought was really cool is C-Flow showed up, Chauncey, and that was awesome to see him. I saw him. I was coming in, and he's over to the left in a booth with like his lady and a couple other folks, and he had a Spider shirt on. I was just like, I ran over and I said what's up to him and stuff, and
because you guys haven't seen each other in a minute.
No, not for a long time. Like I mean, the last time I saw him was actually during the memorial at the Bing.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool to see him out. We had, you know, weren't like I don't know. We butt heads for a little bit, but now everything's groovy, and I think he's cool. Seems like a really nice person, and I think that the idea that he came out to support, even with the lack of Sam there, that like kind of really shines some light on the idea that he really did like the Spiders as a whole, like the message and what we were trying to do as a whole, not just because Sam was in it, but because that's cool hip hop and like that's a.
Well, that was the thing I noticed with like that show is how many people, like you said with C-Flow, like I hadn't seen them in a year or and all these people just coming through, and like that didn't feel like your stereotypical local show, like couple people into it, like that place got popping.
Yo, I had friends from high school I hadn't seen, like my buddy Nabokowski came out.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, yeah, it was fucking Wile E. Coyote for a minute there. I was like, I'd turn around and be like, holy shit, that's Shelly and Jamie. I haven't seen them in forever. And then I turn around, there's Nabokowski, and then there's Shayla. It's like fucking people descending from the rafters from my past. And
right.
Like, and it was awesome, but it was cool. They all really liked it too. And that was one of those things, like these people generally never, beyond Shayla, and actually Napa was at a show at the Lincoln Center, I think a long time ago, but they never really seen the stuff I've been working on. We've just been kind of out of touch. But for them to come and be like, yo, that was awesome. Like everybody was awesome. Like Rockers were crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Smiles was crazy. Spiders are awesome. Like that's.
Yeah,
I don't get
Rockas
that
got
kinda-
down. Like did Rockas play for like what 45 minutes? Like they were
Almost
rolling.
like an hour.
Yeah, they played for at least an hour and 15 minutes, and they I don't know how those guys get tighter every show.
Right.
And I'm gonna throw out my guitar worship right now to Brooke, because that dude. Not only I was pointing this out to somebody the other night, and people also don't realize this about Brooke. He pretty much made his entire setup to an extent. So like the guitar, he bought the guitar. He's got new electronics in it, so he like wired all that stuff.
Okay.
And then his amp, he built his amplifier, like the whole thing by hand. And then his pedal board, the last time I saw him, he had his pedal board that he built out of wood and then just put all his pedals on it. So pretty much aside from like the guitar and the pedals themselves, he's pretty much wired everything together.
That's the coolest thing I've heard all day.
Yeah, and his tone, like his tone is the kind of tone that guys are going after like their entire lives. They're like, I gotta get that. Like,
where
creamy,
it's clean, but it's
sweet.
still deep.
Yeah.
Like you get both ends to it.
Yeah, man, I can't even, like, I've paid good money for my stuff, and I can't get close to that.
Well,
man.
I mean, shoot, it definitely gives credence to his motto on that. I mean, when you go and build it all yourself, do everything yourself, you're gonna be able to pinpoint it.
Yeah.
You're gonna be able to get that exact knack. Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Hell yeah, dude. Oh, so you were talking about Aesop earlier. That brought me up. Me and him were talking about this last week. Have you seen this MC flowchart?
Oh yeah, that was really interesting.
Yeah, wasn't it?
They even put Shakespeare on there.
Well, they had a marker for Shakespeare, and they
Right.
had a marker for Herman Melville, I believe. He was sitting there, but I don't know. I've never seen anyone like kind of quantify rap music like that. And basically, for people who haven't seen this, it's if you go to mdaniels.net, or if you just Google search M Daniels, it'll come up. But this guy went and created a graph showing how many different words a rapper said in the first 35,000 words they said of their career. That setup. And then they have everyone kind of set up on the scale for how many. And like the thing that's really surprising is that middle part. Who resides that middle part? And this middle part, which is, I want to say it's like what, 4,000 words? Sort of like 4,300. Pretty much most people's top 5 rappers are in that middle.
Yeah. I thought it was crazy. It was crazy to see like quantified like that. And I was thinking about just how much work that is, because he covered like shit like probably 50 MCs.
He
or
has
something
to
like that.
have a program. Like someone didn't go do that.
I know.
That's
I don't know.
crazy.
I mean, maybe there's some like code you can run in Rap Genius, or some like script you can run in the background that will take like lyrics from those. And
Yeah, but even still, you have to sit down and like put all the lyrics on paper. Yeah. If you put it in a database, it's all going to be the same word to count it in a computer program. It's not going to pick up slang, and it's not going to pick up all sorts of little weird things. So somebody actually sat down, like you're saying, basically mapped everything out. Yeah,
because there's at least, I would say, like, what, 200 rappers on that?
I was saying, I think it's closer to like 50.
Oh, you think it was that little?
That's what it looked like to
Okay,
me.
even 50. I mean, they got the people. The thing I also liked about it was how they kind of went and got, I mean, it wasn't all Main Street people. They went and got
there's some more underground.
Well, I mean,
type
that and
cats
like, it surprised me, but it didn't surprise me.
Shakespeare's pretty underground in his rap game.
I know, right? But dude, his patterns are nice.
Well, I don't even know if that's fair, because Shakespeare's making up words. So I make every that's true. That's true.
Right.
Little bit of math on that. So 35,000 words.
Yeah.
Times 50 is 1.75 million. There had to be a team of people on that.
Yeah, that's insane. But the cool info that comes up from this is it's not just one of those things where it's like, who said the most new words? And for those wondering, Aesop Rock, hands down. I want to say Jizza was the closest to him, but Aesop probably had him by at least a couple hundred words.
Yeah.
Like he's somewhere at like 7,300 words, which makes sense with all the different stuff he pulls from.
And isn't it crazy? And I think he mentions this in the article, and looking at comments by people that have that looked at it and read through it. The idea that like DMX is on the other end of the spectrum, and I've definitely listened to way more DMX than I have Aesop, but I think that it's the idea that you don't need a lot of colors to make a beautiful image, right? You don't and like intention means more than your tool set, I think, a lot of the time.
Right.
So like it is just, I mean, people that get butthurt about it, like, one of the things, every time you make a list of something, somebody's gonna be like, nope, that list
yeah.
is stupid. And like,
Well, especially when it's an artistic thing, because like you're saying,
Yeah.
they're quantifying an art,
exactly.
which a lot of people are gonna say is a no-no.
But I think as doing that, like, I don't think, you know, that Aesop isn't the best MC, right? And like, who
Mhm.
is the best MC? You know, it's whoever you fucking prefer.
Well, and that goes and brings up like another way that you can go and view these rappers is, like I said, that most people's stereotypical top 5. You know, you're talking about your Pac, your Biggie, your Eminem, your Jay-Z, stuff.
And they're
like
all
that.
middle of the road on that
Yeah,
list.
they're all middle of the road, and it shows how many variations you could do with pattern, or like you said, intent, to where go switch it up, and how many situations, like, yeah, a guy's vocab's not that extensive, but
That's how he puts it together.
Yeah, puts it together, and like part of that could be due to a fact where they're doing a run where it's like, I see blank blank but blank. I see blank blank but blank presentation in it, and yeah, so it just totally kind of gives you a different way to look at the craft.
And the styles of hip hop too. You know, you have something really raw like DMX, and you don't need to have the largest vocabulary in the world. Like saying, you know, a 5-syllable word or 10 of those in a row or whatever. You know, it doesn't make your music any better necessarily. I think it's just, you know, when it comes down to it's like what they're trying to express, and you use what you need to express yourself how you want to. And I think I thought it was cool because it gave some MCs some shine. I thought it was awesome to have Wu-Tang so high on there. Wu-Tang, and then have the Jizza and was like up there, like, and then, you know, when you listen to Wu, their vocabulary is extensive. They have an amazing lexicon when it comes to pretty much everything they put out. Like, they not only can be some of those gangster MCs, but like they can drop some like, you know, some real knowledge in terms of like, it's not just knowledge about like an emotion that they're trying to convey, but like properly using like words that I haven't even heard. And then like, I don't know, but it was really cool. I hope that you know, being objective about it, and like, I'd like to see more of that. I would love to see like what else could they quantify, you know, what's the longest multi that anybody ever did, you know, like what's the longest verse that anybody ever did. I would love to see like stuff like that. Yeah, I hope the guy keeps doing stuff like produce.
So on that same website page near the bottom, I think wasn't there another chart that had like the percentage of lyric spit by each Wu-Tang member for the first so many albums of their?
I didn't see that. I didn't look at the website good.
Okay.
I was not good on the internet that day.
Yeah, if you've got it handy, pull it up. If not, no big deal. But
No,
that was another interesting one because they kind of broke down. Like, I wish I could remember all the figures and the names on the chart, but basically they just, I can't remember it well enough. But yeah, it was basically a breakdown of a percentage of how many lyrics each one of them used over the course of the first part of their career.
Oh, so you
together.
kind of see the dominant, what MCs were more dominant.
See who's
And
saying more.
I hope we pull it up, because your 3 dominant guys are going to be RZA, Meth. I want to say Inspected Deck might sneak in there, but I'd have to put Ray, RZA, and Meth on that. Yeah, no, and yeah, that really got me, because so often, like, people who are kind of Wu haters, they're gonna say like, well, I mean, it's all that street stuff, and a lot of people think just because of topic, like, because you are talking about violent stuff, which Wu doesn't do all the time, like, they spread it out a lot. They think you would think because you're in such and such frame, you're gonna have a limited vocab because you're talking about similar things. But yeah, I mean, just the way those guys pull it out. That, and I was also happy to see MF Doom in that outlier position too, just because so often his delivery at least, is so simple, and you kind of realize a lot of that wisdom is that it's counteracted by having a more complex vocab. You know, that and just all the different places this guy goes mentally. You know, that guy definitely goes out on some tangents, man. Oh, it was 85?
Yeah. So let me do that. 85 times 2,975,000.
So many words. Oh my God.
That was what that guy was doing for a year or two.
Yeah. Well, then it gets me going. I was like, 35,000 words. Well, how many albums is that? Is that 3? And then it gets into like, dang, when you put out an album, how many words are you writing? Like, how much are you putting out there? And then, yeah, I would also like to see what you're talking about earlier, like who had the longest verse. My guess is they would probably give it to Game or Wayne, just because Game had a song that was no choruses, 500 bars. And I want to say Wayne did a similar thing. Although Wayne's was one of those things where he was getting to the whole, I'm just going to make up a line, spit it into it, make up another line, spit into the mic again. He was getting to that part. So he had about 3 years worth of writtens that he was just dumping onto one song. So that might be on that one. Checking the woo percentages right now. Da-da-da. While we're talking about vocals, that was another
they
thing.
got Outcast in charts.
What's that?
Outcast in charts. Birth of Southern Slang. He breaks that down.
Oh, wow. This had to be this dude's thesis or something.
He's got like a lot of cool shit on here. The evolution of Outkast lyrical themes.
Interesting.
Really cool. Yeah, no, it's awesome.
So yeah, people check out.
It's cool. It's got a graph and it's like percentage of tracks in Outkast albums that discuss guns, drugs, the South, pimps, and cars. And there's this graph and it's gray for guns, yellow for drugs, green for the South, red for pimping, and blue for cars /
what wins,
lax.
man? Huh? Which one is South, obviously, right?
There's a lot of cars in AT Aliens.
Yeah.
Let's see. Southern Playa had more drug references. AT Aliens was cars and drugs. Stank on Ya was drugs. Speaker Box was cars.
Really?
Idlewild was drugs. But there is a significant portion of pimping going on here.
Oh yeah. Well, I would expect no less. I'm surprised. Oh, and they didn't put Speaker Box Love Below on there. They probably didn't have that count.
This is just Speaker Box.
Yeah, because Speaker Box had its share of pimping. So.
Yeah, there's some pimping in there.
Fuck, dude. I remember the first time I heard that. That was one of the greatest musical days of my life. Like,
I used to ride around and listen to that shit all day.
Yeah, Speaker Box Love Below. No, dude, I wake up that morning on my buddy's couch. I'm in the military at the time. Come back into Sacramento, California, on my buddy's couch. And then someone goes, I think it was just on TV, like they were mentioning that it came out that day. I had no clue. So it's boom, surprise that. We're basically listening to the album all day, all the way to see Supertramp and Radiohead. Like the greatest musical day ever.
Yeah, that's
it was beautiful. And like we hadn't gotten sick of Hey Ya yet. So my God, it was heaven on earth, I say. Man. So we were talking about this earlier before we got on. Like, I haven't heard much about this. Like, so who's trash talking Spotify?
I don't think it's anybody like in particular. I mean, just like musicians of any size and shape, kind of have a bone to pick with Spotify, because largely the biggest complaint is the payment.
Mm-hmm.
For each stream, you're only getting a fraction of a penny. It's like 0.007 cents per stream. And so their argument is, isn't our work worth more?
Right.
What is our work worth to the average person? They feel like it kind of devalues their product.
Yeah, but man, I almost feel like you can't have a scale there, because then you're definitely putting a set value on someone's product. But I mean, it makes sense, because what are you going to do? Like, let's say you go raise it up to just 1 cent or something like that. I mean, what are you going to do when you have these artists that are getting 5 million streams a day? Or just retarded numbers. That was an exaggeration. But just ridiculous numbers of streams. You actually have to have a balance there, don't you think?
Well, that's the thing, is that Spotify does have that on their balance sheet. They are paying royalties to everybody to play this music, and largely is negotiated by the people who own that music, the record companies.
Okay.
So a lot of times what you're seeing out of those payment deals is what is basically the best deal for the people who actually own the music in the first place.
Right.
But at the same time, what are you actually paying for? Is the question I always pose to anybody who doesn't like Spotify, doesn't like Pandora or any of these streaming music services that don't pay a lot, and they keep saying, well, it's my music. Well, yeah, it's your music, but it's also music that person who's streaming it doesn't necessarily own.
Right.
You only have access to that if you've got an internet connection.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
look at YouTube. People aren't getting paid. Some people are they?
Well,
Does anyone
if you
get
get a
any-
certain amount of viewers, I think you start getting advertising dollars back to you.
Okay, but it's
So,
not royalty. That's just money you're getting from advertising.
Yeah, that's basically how they run the site. I mean, Equals 3 was a huge show for a long time. Ray William Johnson, and that dude makes like $10 million a year off YouTube videos. It's insane.
Yeah, and I mean the way I look at it is, I mean, if Spotify, if you're making music and your big worry is making money off of it, if Spotify is your biggest money generator, you need to look at your business model. I mean, that should just be a little icing. Oh, hey, a couple months, I got a freaking $35, $300 check from Spotify. Sweet. Like that can't be your root.
No, it's beer money, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
But, Spotify is, like we were talking about, it has its own niche. Like, you can stream, you can opt to buy, you can make your own radio station, just like Pandora.
Right.
If you pay for that service, you can listen to songs as much as you want, but you still need an internet connection. I do know they have like an offline play option where you download that music, but once you terminate your subscription, you're not able to keep that anymore.
Yeah, that, and I want to say they have a definite limit on how many offline playlists you could do, like something no more than 10 gigs or something. It's not super high. That, and I mean, like you said, like Spotify is just kind of a little on-the-go player. It's not, I don't know. It's not a major source to where you be getting your music. Although I do know a lot of people who, like, on their phone, they don't use Google Play. Like, it's strictly Spotify. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we were talking about this earlier, and right now we're in a point with all the music industry innovations and stuff like that where it's a grab bag. I mean, of course there's going to be some things you don't like about it. I mean, how old is Spotify?
I don't know, like 5-6 years old.
Yeah,
7 years
exactly.
old,
Like, they're working out kinks with this sort of stuff. And I mean, I just like the fact where it's like you have an option as an artist with Pandora or Spotify that just someone doesn't have to search you to find you. I mean, that's awesome. Like, that's for the first time I remember, besides going to a show where you're playing with other artists who have the same distinction or sound as you, that's the first time someone can just go stumble on your stuff listening to what they like just because of the attributes of your music. I mean, that's not, like we're saying, that is not a money generator. That is a crack door.
Just letting a little bit of light through. I mean, most people in music are of the same mind that if you can get more people to hear your music, that's not a bad thing.
Right.
If you can collect a couple pennies along the way, great. But it's still not a performance. You still don't own that music.
And I mean, that's where it's getting to where it's on your point, where it's like, cool, you're on Spotify, they found you. Do you have a site for them to go to? Do you have actual content, like albums besides a couple of songs for them to go get? Are you going to be touring nearby? That's where the availability gets on the artist end.
And you can get all of that on Spotify. They list tour schedules and
Exactly.
all sorts of stuff. Yeah, just put it all up there.
So, I mean, how much indirect money are these artists making that they're complaining about? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, even the guys that are still, independent as you can be, I say that because even if you need to distribute your music, you still have to pay for somebody to go do it. You can't just drive your CDs all over the country and drop them off. But
no, that Bay Area trunk thing doesn't really work anymore. You gotta give him props though, man. In the early 2000s, late 90s, man. These Bay Area, these Houston guys, you're selling 1 million copies out of your trunk. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, I can't imagine how much work that is.
That's hustling.
Yeah, man. It's totally insane.
That's a Rick Ross level hustling.
What? No, dude, that's beyond Rick Ross. Like, I mean, because
you know who I'm talking about, Freeway Rick Ross.
Well, yeah, Freeway Rick Ross. Well, I would say even that, because Rick Ross and like the whole Contra thing, like that dude was kind of just a pawn.
Right, but he made the most out of it. I mean, the dude's selling T-shirts now. Like,
yeah,
he's fine, but he taught himself to read. Do you know
I didn't
enough
know
to
that.
give background on that? So Freeway Rick Ross, essentially, a little background, was like basically the biggest cocaine dealer in Los Angeles.
Well, yeah,
or
he
pretty
was,
much
or the
United
biggest
States.
mule. Like he was mostly muling more than anything, right?
Basically, yeah, he was just bringing in a ton and like tons upon tons, living out of the projects, living with his mom, and he basically, like you said, was a pawn for the Iran-Contra deal. And they sent him to prison. They set him up and put him away and made him the scapegoat.
Right.
So in prison, he taught himself to read.
I didn't know that.
Found out that they were screwing him, and got basically released off of that.
Yeah.
So now he's kind of out doing his own thing.
Well, the big thing
giving
right
talks
now,
at schools and stuff. Like he's a big community guy now.
That, and also like the big thing with him now is basically getting money by suing the other Rick Ross, the rapper Rick Ross. Like, yo, you can't use my name.
Well, I think he was doing more than just using his name. I think he was actually like
posing as him.
Well, almost. Like one could argue, you could say posing. He was definitely stealing his likeness as much as Rick Ross, the rapper, could do.
Yeah,
I mean,
I will admit that. Like he definitely, he wasn't stealing his identity, but I felt he kind of tried to feed off that man's credibility with all those people who find credibility in the activities he took. He got into. Yeah, he kind of tried to take it. Credit for what the real Rick Ross did. Yeah.
I tend to think of it like, it's in a way punishing all the things that Rick Ross glorifies in rap that I don't like about rap. Just like, the drugs and all the violence and all that. Like, it's kind of a weird way to like pinpoint it. I don't know if that's the right way to think about it, but I think he's justified in bringing the lawsuit and trying to, make sure people realize like this is what's being glorified and it's not necessarily the best thing.
Yeah.
I went through this personally. It's not just a rap song.
Well, I mean, what they're doing is, all these people who were really heavy into dealing and all these criminal activities, that was a means to an end. That was getting something that they felt or actually couldn't get on their own. Meanwhile, these guys go and take the dirty work they had to do to get what they want and use that as the end. Like, that's where it's supposed to be. Like, oh my God, have you seen the Stitches thing? Stupidest. All right, rapper out of Miami. His name is Stitches. Right now, his video's going viral for how ridiculous it is. And it gets me mad because he's at about, like, when I went and checked it, it was at about 700,000 views. So it's getting to the point where he may make money off this. And the song's called A Brick for Your Face.
A what?
A brick in your face. And it's like, put a brick in your face, but what are you going to do with it? And like, basically the whole thing is just about dealing coke. And it's this Puerto Rican dude with a mohawk with like Stitches and an AK-47 tattooed on his face, holding up like assault rifles and stuff. And guys just like flinging around fake bags of cocaine. Like there's a dude in a pinhead mask, like flinging around a brick of cocaine while on the screen it just flashes, "I love dealing blow." Like, it is the most over the top ridiculous thing I've seen. Like,
people gonna glorify shit like that. Like, it is ridiculous.
Well, and it's ridiculous because everyone who's had known people who are in that, do that sort of thing or are savvy to it at all, know the biggest red flag that you're fake and don't do it is that you're going and parading around that.
Right.
Like, you're really going to tell me that, like, oh, you checked your statute of limitations and you're solid and stuff like that? No.
Right. And that's like, what's funny is they used to, I remember in, I don't know if we talked about this before, but in Italy, there were several people that were eventually arrested and proven guilty based upon some lyrics in a song they make. They would go do some heinous shit and sing, "Then Luigi like killed fucking Luigi," like, and shit like that.
Right.
And they're like, "Yo, you said you killed this dude in the song. He actually died. Like,
nice
you do this?
confession.
Yeah, you're coming with us." And so it's like, yeah, I can't think of a better way. It's like people posting pictures of drugs on your fucking Facebook. It's like, yo, the cops got that shit too. It's like,
no, dude, like,
yeah,
exactly.
If
like,
I could figure out that you murdered somebody because I put your album on, like,
no,
we're
that's
gonna
the
come get
biggest
you.
tool drug task force have had in the past year. Like,
They said they started doing it now too with hip hop, like with MCs in particular. Like, they're trying to use it similarly to how the Italian police had in the past, and like.
so you got to have your shit set where it's like, if you're into that stuff, you have to have your shit set as in, oh no, I'm expressing myself, da da da. And it's funny because it puts these fake people in the corner of, you have two choices.
You know what?
You're
You know what's funny?
You're either going if you're saying you're doing these crimes, you're either going to go for these crimes or you have to expose that you made all the shit up.
Redman has a line like that. He's like, all the raw chopping is metaphor so the cops can stop watching. And I thought that was, turns out to be very poignant.
Yeah.
Good old Redman. Hold it down,
Redman has these little nuggets of wisdom that just pop out, man.
Yeah. Oh, he's got some of the funniest shit. He's like, yeah, girl, my kahuna is hooked up in a harness. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Did I ever tell you the Maceo story of De La Soul? I think I haven't told you. Basically,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, Maceo does a photo shoot with Keith Murray. And Keith Murray the whole time is like, Maceo, you are the man. Like, I want you to be my life model. Like, you're doing this right, da-da-da-da. Like, your son's doing well, this stuff. And they go party, and Maceo needs a ride back from this Ralph Lauren party that they're at. And they're cruising through. Keith Murray hands Maceo a blunt. He's like, yo, man, go ahead and hit this. And Maceo's like, nah, I'm good. He's like, screw you, man. I know you smoke weed, all that stuff. And he's like, nah, I'm not messing with it. He's like, what? Like, you don't trust our blunts? Like, he's like, honestly, dude, I think there's dust in there. Like, that's what it is. I know you guys are wilding out and all that stuff. There's dust in it. And Keith Murray's like, no, there's no dust in it. And in the middle of it, Redman, who's driving the vehicle, is like, you may not want to hit that. Yeah, okay, you kind of called me out of my shit right there.
Yeah, Redman doesn't fuck around. He's a goofy dude.
Yeah, I just love knowing that that's a real person that exists.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially watching his, just watching his cribs is just fucking perfect.
Oh, yeah. Like the two wires hit them together to go use the doorbell.
Yeah. And just having like, yo, this is my rack of porno. Like all those VHS porno, like you would have your fucking Disney movies. He had super butt hose and stuff. It's like, Jesus Christ.
And then
man.
the thing I thought was most brilliant was he has a whole room dedicated to all the presents that he forgot to give his nephews and nieces.
Yeah, they're like in the closet and shit. Like just, yeah. Like
it's a room full of Hot Wheels and Barbies and stuff like that this grown man has because he didn't get around to getting them out
smoking those dusty blunts, man.
Exactly, man.
Couldn't remember putting my shoes on, probably.
It's terrible. Right, dude. But yeah, back to the drug task force sort of thing. Like, I wish I had the number on it, but like the biggest tool they're using right now is Facebook. Like because these guys are idiots. Like they're showing pictures of them with the guns that's set up in the murder. Well, especially all of it's right there.
Yeah, and the fucking kicker is like their profiles like public.
Yeah,
there's like a button you could have pressed and probably cut like a lot of that shit out of your life. But you didn't press that one either. You didn't read your terms.
No,
of agreement, man.
Oh my God, it's just that sort of like stupidity. Like I'm just
people dumb enough to do that shit are generally dumb enough to get caught too.
Yeah, I mean it's evolution, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, no.
Unfortunately,
they're breeding a lot.
They're gonna breed.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the issue. There is they are breeding, and I mean, I don't know. You can't do that. If don't put shit on the internet unless like you're 100 verified. You want that to get public because everyone's watching, man. Like, I mean, God, and me too, a little bit.
I don't know. They're watching you.
Yeah, well, I mean, those low-level guys, definitely. Those low-level guys where it's like, you don't need to be with society, man. Or you need to learn a lesson before you can. Although that goes into a whole thing with the prison system. But, yeah, all that other NSA stuff, though, no. I want nothing to do with it.
Well, that's kind of the end of privacy. It's like sometimes you don't have a choice about what gets put on the internet.
Right.
And it just shows up, and you're like, oh, that's not me. It's like, well, no, the facial recognition on Facebook says that's you. It's got to be you, right?
Right.
And you're like, oh, okay, well, you got me.
Mm-hmm. And, yeah, I mean, that you thought that technology was so cool when you were able to tag your friends. But once they go and use it against you, oh, my bad. Sorry about that. Like, I don't know, the whole NSA thing, though, to, like, me is just, it's ridiculous how fake everything sounds. Like, I was watching something where they were talking about the whole Edward Snowden story getting out there. And basically it started with a reporter at The Guardian. And he just gets this text that says, I have a big story for you. From this random guy he didn't know. Just says, I have a big story for you. But in order for me to talk to you at all, you need to take this encryption data, the other thing, and then we can talk. first of all, how do you expect someone to trust that? Like, just get a random email like, I got the big scoop. And so the first guy passes on it. Second person, she goes and gets it, and she gets like 15 of these. Gets the encryption, does the encryption data, has these encrypted conversations with someone who turned out to be Edward Snowden. He goes and flies them to Hong Kong. Like, it sounds like spy movie shit. He flies them to Hong Kong. They go to Hong Kong. They go to this hotel that to go stay at, or so they think. And when they get there, they find out they actually have to go stay in another hotel. That one's a ploy. And then when they get there, they get a quick phone call, and it's like, meet me in front of this store at the mall. And his big thing is like, I'll be the guy holding the Rubik's Cube. Like, really? Like, this is real life, and you're walking looking for some mysterious figure staring into a Rubik's Cube to set it off. And it goes into the whole thing. Like, I don't know. It was really interesting because none of these NSA guys, like, you see the guys from CIA, and there are these ex-military guys like Machismo and all that stuff. All these NSA guys are scared. Like, they're just really nervy things, like nervy guys, like, because all they do, like, they're left in these rooms to look at all this stuff. All they deal with is encryption. Everything they do is purely secrets. There's no action to it. So it's all about the information. It's all about, like, that little change that will go and completely, incriminate something or turn something that's nothing into the next 9/11 attack you're trying to stop. So all these guys are completely, like, I don't know, like schizo. Like, I don't know. That's a whole different world, man.
They're watching people while being watched. Like, that can't feel good at all.
Right.
And then when they do their searches and things, like what I heard the other day was they basically have software like you would in any other job, and you're going through and looking through people's stuff, and to basically say what you got it for, there's a little drop-down menu or something, and says, I was going in because this person has suspicious friends. And so they just, that's their justification. So they're pretty much doing this stuff on the fly to be able to observe people's data. And they've already been showing that certain people have been looking in on, like, ex-girlfriends just because they can.
Because they're human beings.
Yeah. They're all humans, and they're getting put in this situation. And, they're still circulating, like, memos on bullet points to talk about if their friends and family start talking about the NSA and how they don't like it, things to bring home for Thanksgiving to tell your friends and your family about what you do and how it's good for the country. And
no shit.
Yeah. So not only are they watching them all the time and making them feel that way, but they're also attempting to kind of brainwash them like you would in any other corporate environment where you're trying to get them to go rah, rah, rah for the team.
Right.
But this time it's not selling cell phones or something. It's like, this is people's lives that you're putting in danger sometimes.
Well, a lot of times.
A lot of times, sure. I mean, one click of the button and you could implicate somebody in something that they had nothing to do with.
Right. I mean, you're just giving an enormous amount of power to people. They just did basically like a cyber attack sort of drill setup. I want to say NSA had people there. It was a lot of like hacker recruits. It was some shit I heard on NPR. And Department of Defense, where basically it's like, all right, everyone's getting in a room, we're setting up these firewalls, you try and break the firewalls. And the thing that was funny is they're talking about how much they use this to recruit new guys to get into cybersecurity. And they go and bring up NSA talking to these guys, and every guy's like, I want nothing to do with that. Like, I just don't even want to go into that bag of worms, which is understandable. Like, these guys are going to be messed up when they get out of it. Like, just all the things you're looking at, all the moral dilemmas you're going and passing. I mean, just look at Snowden. I mean, like, all the things that make his story sound unbelievable is because all the precautions he had to take because of how paranoid he is. Exactly. I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's almost makes it hard to, like, go with your daily life.
Well, it's a crazy thought, man. Like, that after the Patriot Act, like that they're trying to justify it like we're saving this is saving lives, and it's, from all accounts, it has saved 0 lives, has stopped 0 things from happening. And it's not like they didn't have incredible surveillance programs already existing before 9/11, and that fucking did shit to stop that, you know. And there was even more, you know, they're taking such a subversive way to find this information where there was some pretty open air indicators that something was going on. There's, you know, that that terrorists were going to attempt to fly planes into buildings. This was like all known information. The whole thing with, you know, NATO, or those tests that were being run that day that was simulating the same fucking thing happening.
Really?
And so that's why there was no response. But as soon as you see these planes are off course by that much, and then they have, you know, destinations, like there was there's F-16s flying shit. There was a test going on at the same time that this was happening, so they weren't sure whether or not it was real.
No shit.
And so that's why those planes were instantly shot down as soon as they like diverted course, you know. And it's one of those things where I don't like conspiracy theories as much as I don't like people saying that that's exactly what happened, like the government told us all the truth. I think that it's never that black and white, and that there has to be. There's definitely things.
Life isn't black and white. There's always
no, exactly. But so it's like you think about this NSA and the paradigm they've set for the monitoring of not only our nation but the world. You know, as much as they can get. That I can believe, like, the reason they make a tank and they buy a tank and they make fighter jets is to protect us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like those weapons used against us would be devastating, horrible,
right?
And it's like they crafted the system where they're able to have backdoors into tons of different corporate entities and be able to look at this metadata, and that I can understand it used against our enemies, you know, and trying to crack down. If you're like hacking phones and shit over in Saudi Arabia or Iran, then I can understand, and that's justified for national security. But I don't think there's like for the breadth of monitoring they're doing. I don't think it has been ever justified that it is actually improving people's lives and making people safer, and that's the whole fucking reason we have a government.
Oh, and it's one of those things.
And
it's one of those things that you can never prove or disprove. Where it's like, well, I mean, we don't need this. How are we making it safer? It's like, well, you don't know what attacks were prevented because they didn't happen because we're here.
Right.
You know.
But and so what I imagine this like program looks like is you type in a name of somebody and all their cell phone information, every call, every text message pops up, every Facebook message, every Twitter account that they're known for having, every website that they've ever probably been to, traced through IP stuff. Like they probably know exactly, you know, like back in, what was it? 7, right? Where Morgan Freeman goes and slides some cash so he can see who's checked out what books. Like, what a tiny fucking... He's like, can't really, this ain't exactly legal here, boy. Like, it's like fucking 10 years later, I know what toothpaste he uses, how much water he uses every day. I know like the electricity coming out of his house.
I know
like,
what paintings are in his living room because we're looking at him through his Xbox
do we
One.
Have here? Like, we got, what... 3 or 4. We have 2 hand ones, but then every fucking microphone on our phone. Like, how many cameras do we have in this?
Exactly,
you know?
I got one right there.
That you don't know.
We have
maybe could be accessed.
We have 4 cameras right here on the table. That's insane, you know. And like the way they went and justified it, because the story I heard it was set up is NSA, like that particular organization, found out about 9/11, seen it on the screen. And that was the whole egg on the face thing is that all we do is intelligence. All they do, you know, at that point, all they do is finding out stuff before it happens, and they're watching it as they happen. Like, that's the most epic failure you could have of a service like that possible. And they go and it's like, well, how do we go and fix this? At that point, we can't, because what we have to do to get this next step, what we have to do to get this next step is going and stepping into infringing on people's rights, right? So what they did was Cheney, he goes up, talks to the head of NSA. He's like, all right, give me a shopping list. What do you guys need to be able to do your job? And he's like, nothing. I mean, because all this stuff's illegal. He's like, that's not what I asked you. What I asked you is, what do you need to do, legal or illegal, to do your job? He goes, tells them, and the lawyers figure it out. Like, that's the scariest part about it, is at the time when they came up with it, it was all technically legal, because they're saying, well, no, we have people in the U.S. who are talking to people overseas. We don't get anything overseas because it goes in there, and then they have networks in there, so they're able to set that up, and it was created as a war act. And that's how they were able to go ahead and justify it. this freaky thing is they actually had another program which was able to recognize what was key, what wasn't key, let stuff go, filter through, so it kind of had a safety on it. And they decided, you know what, eventually we're going to get screwed by that too, so we're just going to go full bore. Like, these guys get 10 terabytes of information, like, within a minute. That's so much information. That's crazy.
One of the things I was thinking about is, yeah, like, I mean, the amount of information they get is just fucking wild. And then they have to have some kind of filtering system. And, you know, it's fucking Dick Cheney always looked like an evil dude. Like, and that's one of those things I don't want to. I hate judging people on their appearance like that. But shit, dog, when you look like the Penguin, like, I'm gonna call you out. Like, and you know, and the just being scared is crazy. Like, the idea that this is gonna increase, like, NSA fucked up, right? So 9/11 happened. Shit, we suck. But, like, anybody that is intelligent enough to plan and operate something like this, like people that make bombs and stuff, the idea of trying to evade a paper trail and using, like, smart means to purchase the things that are necessary to create whatever tool of destruction you're trying to make, like, I just doubt they're fucking using Twitter a lot to get this thing off the ground, you know? Like, hey, you ready to go fly that plane? Like, you took your flight lessons, right? We're going to go blow up some buildings tomorrow. Like, you know, we're going to do it, like, the community, they observe, and I'm sure they know there is like Al Qaeda and the Taliban were really technologically advanced for, you know, especially, like, you know, they had a lot of money backed from a lot of people, and they had the power and resources to understand how they were going to be monitored and to counteract that. And you know, if it takes, instead of making a phone call, you write a letter, you put it under, you know, like very classic fucking spy movie shit. But, like, to get things done on that level, you know, nobody's ever going to adjust terrorism. Is, you know, I suppose it always depends on what side of the coin you're on. If you're, you know, we call them terrorists, they call themselves freedom fighters. That's fucking how you're going to have to look at it. But I think whenever you're taking innocent lives like that, it's just not fair. But I can understand them trying to, that's the only way they feel they can make a point, is to kill some fucking people that didn't deserve to die, you know. Just say, hey, stop your regime of terror across the whole world. You know, you think this is bad, getting 3,000 people killed, like, you've murdered and controlled half the planet for such a long time. Again, I mean, I don't agree with it, but I can understand where they're coming from in terms of, like, the anger they must have. I think the means they took to fucking try to make any moves has totally backfired. You just, you know, you're shooting a fucking pistol at a brontosaurus right now. Like, you're just pissing us off, and now you're just making it harder. Like, you're just making the world worse by retaliating like this. You know, there's got to be a better way for us to, like, for anybody to live, you know, comfortably with your neighbor, even though you don't agree. There has to be some kind of open discussion. It seems like most of the time we tend to be the bully. Like, if you're not going to just say yes and agree with us, we're going to fucking take it, and we're going to take it pretty violently generally. You know, because we have the ability to use the most extreme force on the planet. Like, we get to destroy the whole world, you know, like, yeah, so give us what we want. Obey, you know, we're putting them on Mickey D's over here. We don't care. We're doing it.
I've always wondered what would happen if we just kind of pulled out of Iraq and Afghanistan, or never even went to war. Like, could you guys imagine a world where we didn't go to war in Iraq or Afghanistan?
Right.
After all that happened, even just
like all the amount of grief,
take the high road.
Mm-hmm. All the grief that would have been saved. And I mean, honestly, like, because what they set in motion is just so much rebuilding. You know, I mean, especially with Iraq, you went and, yes, you took out saying it cool, but you went and created a slate in a place that, if you look in the Middle East, is really strategic. Like, Iraq is like like where it's set and where it's worked. That's a really strategic spot. You just went and made it the wild, wild west. You know, like, the amount of building to go create something stable. I mean, shit, how long did it take for the U.S. to really, really become stable when it was first founded? That takes a lot of time. And you're just, like, the evolution of a civilization or something, you're taking them back to the Stone Age. You know, it's...
Some places never left the Stone Age. They've always remained in that state. And so trying to go over there and say, well, this is how you need to function as a government and a people, and they don't know how to deal with it. Like, a big thing in Russia right now is they're kind of got the world spotlight on them, and there's a lot of propaganda against homosexuals over there, and people don't really think about it, but they're kind of coming into their own 1950s right now. Like, shit's finally starting to work again.
Yeah.
Even though it's not the best circumstances, a lot of those attitudes are the same things that we felt, 50, 60 years ago.
Well, yeah, no, burning books back then. Now it's like no swearing in movies over in Russia. Like, it feels like they're reverting after the collapse of the Soviet Union. It feels like they're reverting back to some of those old tendencies where it's just, very controlling.
Yeah.
Like they have democracy
super
as much as fucking as Iraq had democracy, I think the idea of like taking Saddam Hussein out of power is wise. I think that it's really funny when you look at the history between the United States and George Bush and that family in particular, and like Bin Laden's family. Like,
yeah.
I think one of the things that seems crazy to me,
someone doesn't become your nemesis, or you don't gain a hatred from a person without having some sort of interaction. Yeah.
Well, and one of the things to me is the amount of money that is made. There's a lot of talk about the war economy and like what PMCs mean to the future. And I think that's cool that Metal Gear touches on that kind of shit. But I think
nice. Did it?
Yeah,
you hit
I
the
got
mark.
my Metal Gear reference.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna eat some paint. No, like the idea, like Halliburton and these companies are fucking making so much money because they're the ones that are contracted to build the military bases over there. And then when you find out that fucking Dick Cheney was the president of Halliburton for a while before he took this spot as vice president, it's like, well, that fucking's kind of weird. So we just, like, within a year of you guys being in power, we invaded a country, and then the old country that you had, or the old company that you owned, is now the primary builder of every Air Force base and every establishment that we have over there. And then you talk about, it just seemed like a big way to slide some Mickey D's in the fucking life. I mean, it's like to get, the more companies we can put in other countries, like, I mean, it seems like a very empire building fucking move.
Well, I mean,
sometimes.
before all this, have you ever heard of privatized military organizations? Like before 9/11? Really? Like,
those have been around since the beginning of time.
Well, yeah, I mean, mercenaries for sure.
Yeah,
but I mean,
that's really all they are.
I mean, yeah, exactly. But I mean, maybe that's what popped out for me. That's the crazy thing about it, was just the fact that they're like, oh yeah, no, Blackwater. Yeah, no, we have them doing their stuff. Like, they got to the point where, like, we don't care if you know about it. It's set in motion. And yeah, like, you want to talk about money being made, like, first of all, like, just they're savvy, because I think their name since they started has changed about 10 times. Keep everyone ahead so they can go and once again put them as a dummy contractor, put them as a nation builder or something like that, when they're either just armies or bodyguards. But I mean, dude, I know people who know people. No, like, I know people who've done the military thing, gone with that. And these guys are making like $80,000 a year, $90,000 a year doing this stuff. This is disgusting money. Can't tell you anything that they've done, but which kind of adds to the other level, like, what are these guys doing that's getting this money,
Well, it's a lot of private security stuff, but,
getting involved in stuff for different factions that really has nothing to do with us.
Right. Well, they just used to use, like, super hardcore spec ops dudes, and now they're like, oh, we can outsource now? Like, we can grab some guys over here and just pay them to go, start a revolution or whatever. Like, who knows? Like you said, you don't know where that money's actually going to. I mean, what it's going for, rather.
Yeah, I mean, look at the whole. We were talking about Russia earlier. The whole Ukrainian situation. Half of it is like third parties getting in there that have nothing to do with it. They were either Russian military or private guys that came through it. Yeah.
A lot of it, I think, is writing on the wall, man. Like, I'd hate to be a doomsayer, because, like, everybody that I know is so positive and everything's chill on our side of the world, but we're rushing into these countries getting oil. Everybody's fighting over Ukraine with all the gas pipelines. They're ripping up the Dakotas now. Halliburton's out there doing the same kind of pollution and crap they do in Iraq, pulling up natural gas. They're trying to make it illegal to talk against fracking. Things like that. It's like it seems
Dakota's
like they're trying to collect
year,
energy and resources from all over the globe, so that when things do hit the fan, somebody's going to be okay. Like, I can't help but think it's not going to be us, but they've got got a plan to kind of corner all these resources all around, and it takes that military might, and unfortunately it takes a lot of human life at the same time. And it's like, what's it all worth?
Right. I mean, you're right. What we're witnessing right now is the last end of guys playing musical chairs vying for that last chair because they know it's running out. And
this next century is going to be an interesting one.
What? Yeah.
The century is going to be strange.
It definitely. Well, not the brightest note to end it on. So yeah, I know, right?
Just crying in the corner.
Exactly. Yeah. So before you go and like, go sit on the toilet and drink a bottle of Jack Daniels till you pass out, crying into your toilet paper. There is good stuff in the like recent future that's coming up. I mean, volume's coming, baby. May 30th, May 31st. About to cut it short. JP, what you look like you got something to say, my man.
We got a buddy playing tomorrow night down at the Knitting Factory with Head PE and Soil. His band's called Project Kings. If this is out by then, Friday, Billy Mickelson from the Flying Spiders in town playing. His band name is Third Seven. Where's he at? Jones Radiator, probably around 8 or 9 o'clock.
Sweet.
That's all I got. Thank you, guys.
Cool. Check it out. Also, keep your eyes open for Flying Spider stuff.
Yeah, thank you for coming, JP, too. Like,
yeah, I appreciate it.
You guest number 2, and we'd love to have you back.
All right.
Thanks again, guys.
Cool. And we're out. Peace.